The Persian scourge descends on Greece, burning temples and desecrating sanctuaries. Panic spreads as flames devour homes and hope alike. By the gods, they swear vengeance against the Eastern Empire. In Pella, a prince's first cry pieces the night. Olympias whispers silent prayers, believing her son touched by destiny. A blazing omen crosses the heavens, foretelling greatness and ruin. Across the world, the great king gazes upon lands he claims as his own. From childhood, he learned the art of war alongside his peers. Steel gleamed with the promise of glory and the weight of responsibility. The empire he aimed to topple stretched from the Aegean Sea to the Indus. And so begins the tale of a man who would never taste defeat. His early days were filled with innocence beneath the palace's watchful gaze. Philip forged plans to humble Persia, a dream he would never see fulfilled. His mother sought the favor of gods, convinced her son was destined for glory. At 13, he absorbed philosophy, science, and strategy from the greatest mind of his age. He devoured knowledge, mapping out war in his mind long before drawing a sword. With patience and insight, he turned fear into loyalty. He honed his body to match his intellect, striking with precision and speed. Together they planned a campaign that would shake the world. Then, fate struck. Philip fell, and the throne was unguarded. Grief quickly turned to resolve. An empire's death would not go unanswered. At 20, he became king, youth wrapped in iron will. He wasted no time. Treachery was answered with steel. From Athens to Thebes, they named him Strategos, supreme commander against Persia. His vow echoed through the ages. Persia would pay for its crimes. An army was armed. Iron sang as hammers fell in rhythm. Ships groaned under the weight of men, and beasts bound for war. He promised them glory and riches across the sea, and they believed. Thus began the march eastward, across waters few Greeks had dared to cross. With oars beating time to destiny, they crossed from Europe into Asia. Setting foot on foreign soil, he gave thanks to the gods and pledged conquest. A wall of spears moved eastward, orderly, implacable, unyielding. Defying terrain and numbers, he hurled his companion cavalry across the river into the teeth of the foe. Panic met courage. The satraps barked orders as chaos consumed their ranks. He led from the front, felling satraps with his own hand. By day's end, banners that once flew over Asia bowed to Macedonia. He sent spoils of victory to the goddess, honoring Athens yet binding it to his cause. No obstacle was too steep. Siege engines hewn from pine were dragged across mountains. Faced with prophecy, he chose steel over patience, carving a path where none existed. They hugged the coast, stealing roots from the sea and its winds. The great king mustered an army of nations, stretching from the foothills to the sea. In the cramped defile, discipline overcame numbers. Spear tips found their mark. Fear eclipsed pride. The great king turned his back on his army. To the defeated queen and her daughters he showed honor, not humiliation. Tyre stood proud and impregnable, an island defying Alexander's passage south. Stone by stone, he turned sea to land, denying Tyre the moat it trusted. Siege engines thundered, every stone a promise that resistance would crumble. Once the walls fell, the fighting turned brutal, house by house. After months of defiance, the island fortress knelt before him. In Egypt, he was greeted as a liberator, hailed not as a conqueror, but as a pharaoh. Crowned with the symbols of Upper and Lower Egypt, he embraced the mantle of pharaoh. Here he founded a new city, a beacon that would carry his name through millennia. To hear the voice of a god, he crossed a desert that stretched like eternity. Within the oasis, the oracle declared him son of Ammon, kin to gods. Under a canopy of stars, he pondered immortality and the weight of divinity. On the plains of Gaugamela, the fate of empires balanced on the edge of a sword. Darius unleashed his scythed chariots, a storm of blades meant to sunder men and horse alike. He spoke of home, of honor, of glory, words that fanned courage into flame. Like thunder they struck, driving deep into the enemy's heart. The phalanx, an iron forest, advanced as if it were one body. With a master stroke, he drew the enemy out and pieced their heart. The King of Kings fled, abandoning armies and empire to their fate. With Persia's army shattered, a new lord of Asia emerged. Babylon opened its gates, its splendor dwarfed only by the ambition of its new master. He now commanded fortune beyond measure, enough to feed his legions and his dreams. Beyond Susa lay Persepolis, the beating heart of Persia's glory. In an act of vengeance and symbolism, he consigned Persia's splendor to ash. He watched empires collapse in embers, mindful that glory too is fleeting. News came that the traitor Bessus had slain Darius, seizing a crown no longer his. He gave the vanquished king the honors of a sovereign, sealing his claim as ruler of Asia. They crossed lands where breath turned to ice and sweat to dust, driving deeper into the unknown. The usurper's flight ended in dust. The great king's killer faced justice. Unfamiliar terrain bred new enemies. Resistance flared from every ridge and crevice. He stitched his name across the map, founding cities that would outlast his empire. Where nature built walls, he scaled them with daring and rope. Amid conquest bloomed a rare alliance, a woman of Sogdia who would become his queen. Their union wove together cultures, sealing loyalty with love. Wine loosened tongues, tempers flared, the seeds of tragedy took root. In a drunken rage, he struck down a friend, victor over the world, yet conquered by wrath. He asked them to prostrate, a gesture of reverence to Persian kings, and felt the strain of two worlds. Still unsated, his gaze shifted eastward, toward lands beyond the known world. He led his army into the towering Hindu Kush, where breath hung in the air and death lurked below. To breach the unbreachable, they hoisted towers where no road existed. Allies were found where ambition aligned. Taxiles opened his gates and pledged his strength. On the far bank waited Porus, his elephants like mountains, ready to trample men. Thunder and rain lashed the camp, but resolve burned brighter. Under cover of night and storm, they crossed unseen. At first light, he struck with the fury of the storm, still clinging to his armor. Never had they faced beasts like these, giants that shook the earth. Discipline and maneuver triumphed over brute force as the companions struck from behind. Cut and battered, Porus stood proud, choosing honor over surrender. Impressed by his courage, Alexander welcomed Porus as an equal rather than a foe. In memory of his beloved steed, he raised a city where blood had been spilled. Rain became a curtain, drenching men to the bone and chilling resolve. The jungle closed in, turning every step into a battle of will. Exhaustion and fear whispered in their ranks. The ocean of green before them seemed endless. Even the bravest falter, Coenus found the courage to speak truth to power. He honored the gods and turned his army west, leaving conquest undone but spirit unbroken. 1,000 ships were built to carry them downriver and homeward. On swift waters they voyaged south, trusting the river to carry them toward home. Across the unforgiving Gedrosia, heat and thirst became deadlier than any foe. A storm rose like a tidal wave, blinding and bearing all in its path. He gave his own water to those who needed it more, sharing hardship as well as glory. At last, river met desert. The fleet and the marchers reunited with tears and laughter. Back in Susa, justice was swift. Treachery and corruption met with punishment. He purged his ranks, ensuring that his empire would not rot from within. He wove together peoples through marriage, seeking to unite Macedonian steel with Persian silk. Yet beneath the celebrations simmered resentment. The old god felt eclipsed by foreigners. In Opis, discontent erupted into mutiny. Those who had followed him to the world's edge demanded respect. With tears and gifts, he won them back, sending them home honored and laden with riches. He wrapped himself in the regalia of Persia, blurring lines between conqueror and king. Even Greece acknowledged his divinity, offering crowns to a man who now fancied himself a god. Indulgence marked his final night. Wine flowed like rivers, and laughter masked fatigue. Even as others feasted, his mind chased horizons unclaimed. A sharp pain seized him, whether by poison, fever, or fate, no one can say. Whispers of poison and fever swirled as healers worked without hope. With breath fading, he whispered only, "To the strongest," leaving destiny to be contested. One by one they came to say farewell, unable to believe the sun could set on such a life. The world grew still. A life that had swept nations lay quiet in death. Without an heir, his empire fractured at the fault lines of ambition. In the shadows, Ptolemy seized the king's body, a prize to sanctify his own rule in Egypt. The body divided, the empire splintered. Warriors who once marched together now drew swords against each other. His legacy etched stone and culture alike, leaving Greek pillars rising from foreign sands. He never tasted defeat, yet mortality claimed him as it claims all.